History is more than a record of victories, it's also a story scarred by unimaginable suffering. The 20th century, in particular, was an age of brutal wars, radical revolutions, and ruthless experiments with absolute power. Three names dominate this dark chapter: Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Mao Zedong. These men reshaped the world, but the legacies they left behind are soaked in blood. To some, they were revered as visionaries. To countless others who suffered under their rule, they remain symbols of tyranny and human tragedy. Together, they remind us of the catastrophic price of unchecked power. So which of these leaders left the most devastating legacy? Let's explore. The rise to power. First, with Adolf Hitler, was born in 1889 in a small Austrian town. His dream was to become an artist, but after being rejected twice by the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, that dream died. Those years in Vienna left him embittered and exposed him to the radical nationalism and anti-Semitism that would later define his worldview. When World War I broke out, Hitler eagerly enlisted in the Bavarian army, serving as a messenger on the Western Front. He fought bravely, earning the Iron Cross, but was wounded in a gas attack in 1918. Returning to a broken and humiliated Germany, he found his path in politics. He joined the German Workers' Party, soon renamed the Nazi Party, and quickly rose through the ranks thanks to his fiery speeches and ability to stir up crowds. After his failed beer hall putsch in 1923, he landed in prison, where he wrote Mein Kampf, laying out his poisonous ideology. By 1933, riding a wave of economic despair, he became Chancellor of Germany and Europe was plunged into darkness. Joseph Stalin's path was very different. Born in 1878 in the Georgian town of Gori, he grew up in poverty with a violent father and a devout mother who dreamed he'd become a priest. Instead, he embraced Marxism, joining Lenin's Bolshevik movement. Unlike Lenin or Trotsky, Stalin wasn't a brilliant thinker, but he had an unmatched instinct for power. After the Bolshevik Revolution, he rose steadily through the ranks, becoming General Secretary of the Communist Party in 1922. What looked like a bureaucratic role turned into the perfect launchpad for dictatorship. When Lenin died in 1924, Stalin outmaneuvered his rivals one by one: Trotsky, Zinoviev, Bukharin, until he stood alone at the top. He transformed the Soviet Union with rapid industrialization and collectivization, but at an unspeakable cost: famine, purges, and fear on a scale the world had never seen. Mao Zedong, born in 1893 to a relatively well-off peasant family in Hunan, China, followed yet another path. He was inspired by reformist ideas after the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911, and as a young man immersed himself in Marxism. He believed that peasants, not city workers, were the true revolutionary force in China, a radical departure from orthodox Marxist thought. Mao rose during the chaos of civil war and foreign invasion, cementing his leadership after the legendary Long March of 1934 to 1935. Following Japan's defeat in World War II, Mao and the Communists overcame the Nationalists in a brutal civil war. In 1949, he declared the founding of the People's Republic of China. As China's leader, Mao launched sweeping campaigns like the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, radical experiments that sought to transform not just politics and the economy, but the very soul of Chinese society. The result was upheaval, persecution, famine, and mass death. Ideologies and motivations, each man was shaped by his own background and obsessions, yet all three pursued visions that drenched their nations in blood. Hitler believed in racial hierarchy. In his world, humanity was divided, with Germans, his so-called Aryans, on top. Jews, Roma, Slavs, the disabled, and many others were labeled as parasites to be eliminated. His quest for racial purity fueled not only the Holocaust but also his dreams of conquest. He saw Eastern Europe as Germany's living space, to be taken by force and cleansed of inferior peoples. Stalin, in contrast, rooted his rule in class struggle. To him, society had to be purged of enemies real or imagined to secure the revolution. Anyone who wavered, questioned, or even seemed like a threat could be branded a class enemy. Stalin's paranoia fueled the Great Purge, in which millions were executed, imprisoned, or disappeared. He wielded the machinery of the state courts, secret police, propaganda as weapons of mass terror. Mao's obsession was transformation. Unlike Hitler's racial dogma or Stalin's rigid class war, Mao envisioned nothing less than the total remaking of Chinese society. He saw revolution not as a single event, but as a continuous process of upheaval. The Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution were designed to smash the old and build the new, whether in farming, culture, or even personal belief. But in practice, these campaigns brought chaos, mass suffering, and death on an unimaginable scale, the scale of violence. The tragedies unleashed by these three leaders are staggering. Under Hitler, the Holocaust became the ultimate symbol of industrialized genocide. 6 million Jews murdered, alongside millions of Roma, disabled people, political prisoners, and others. Beyond that, his wars of conquest unleashed World War to the deadliest conflict in history, claiming between 70 and 85 million lives worldwide. Hitler's regime directly caused around 17 million deaths, not counting the far greater toll of the global war he ignited. Stalin's violence was more bureaucratic, but no less brutal. His policies of collectivization triggered famines, including the Holodomor in Ukraine, which alone killed millions. The Great Purge eliminated vast swaths of Soviet society party members, generals, intellectuals feeding a climate of terror. His forced labor camps, the Gulag, swallowed up millions more. Historians estimate that Stalin's policies claimed 7 to 20 million lives. Mao's violence was carried out through mass mobilization. His land reform campaigns led to the execution of millions of landlords and so-called counter-revolutionaries. The Great Leap Forward resulted in the worst famine in recorded history, with 22.45 million people starving to death. The Cultural Revolution then turned society against itself, as Red Guards persecuted intellectuals, officials, and ordinary citizens. In total, Mao's rule is believed to have caused 40–55 million deaths, legacy, and memory. Today, the world remembers these men in very different ways. Hitler is universally condemned. His name has become synonymous with evil itself. The Holocaust and the devastation of World War II ensure that Nazism is seen as a warning to future generations. Germany, to its credit, has confronted its dark past head-on through education. Memorials, reparations, and a firm rejection of Nazi ideology. Stalin's legacy is more complicated. Globally, he is remembered as a ruthless dictator. But in Russia, many still view him with respect, even admiration, as the man who defeated Nazi Germany and turned the USSR into a superpower. In fact, a 2019 survey found that 70% of Russians expressed admiration or respect for Stalin. Mao, meanwhile, occupies a paradoxical place in modern China. Officially, his record is judged as 70 achievements, 30% mistakes. His role in unifying China and founding the People's Republic is celebrated, while the horrors of the Great Leap Forward and Cultural Revolution are downplayed or selectively remembered. His portrait still hangs over Tiananmen Square, a reminder of how deeply entwined his image is with China's identity. So who left the most devastating legacy, Hitler, Stalin, or Mao? Hitler's reign was short but unleashed global war and genocide on a scale the world had never seen. Stalin turned his own nation into a prison of fear, killing millions to maintain control. Mao's campaigns tore apart the fabric of Chinese society, causing more deaths than either of the others. Each left scars that still shape the world today. Hitler is remembered as pure evil. Stalin and Mao, in contrast, remain figures of reverence for some, even as their crimes are undeniable. And perhaps that is the final warning. History is never just about the past. The way we remember or forget shapes how we understand power, violence, and justice today. Whoever controls history controls the future. History is not just about the past, it's a lesson for the present. Explore more stories like this and understand how ideas can shape nations for better or worse.